So here is a demo of our DC Tech ERP software. It does everything from manage our customers and orders, and it does all of our purchasing or receiving, handles all of our inventory, and that includes just regular items and kits and assemblies. Does our accounting stuff, time logging, and work logs, which are more of like a ticket tracking system for business customers. And then you have your system settings over here. So we'll start at the beginning. In system settings, we go to configure system, little gears, and in here you can set like your customer types. We have a PC repair customer and a business customer in here already. All of our employees that would be doing work in the store. We have our sources, order statuses, things like that. And we can add and edit all of these from this screen. But let's start at the beginning with a source. Let's say that we're doing a promotion on, I don't know, free repair, and we call it source code, 1234. I don't know. And the description might be free computer repair, and we hit save. And we'll see now we have a source code called 1234. The start date is today, and we can change that start date if we want. Let's say I wanted to backdate it to last Friday. You could save it, and it would update it. The start date would be then last Friday, and the end date is 2/28/2017, which is in at the end of the month. So yeah, let's close out of this. Oh, well, actually, I wanted to show you one more thing. You can set up all your miscellaneous variables, like your standard markup, and you can set up your standard tax rate. You'll see down here, standard markup is 15%, standard tax rate is 6%, your default employee for tech service, default status for your orders, lots of different, all your system defaults are in here. So that being said, let's move on to the next step of the game, which is products. So let's say we open up our inventory screen, we hit search, and this just displays all of the products in the system. Now you can filter this, like let's say I was just looking for a power supply, I could search for PSU, or I could search for 350, any string of, any part of the text string in any of these fields will filter the results based on that. So for right now, we're just going to display everything, and we'll go through this screen here on the bottom. You see that it shows the item name, gives you the unit price and the unit cost, tells you how many you have in inventory. We have 4 power supplies in inventory. And then you have these product groups. You can select hardware, service, software, and shipping, and these can be added or removed from the system settings area. And then inside of each item type, you have different product lines, and these are filtered based on the item type you select. And then you have product groups within there. We don't have any. You can leave these as none if you don't have any sublayer of grouping you want. For the most part, these are just for reporting purposes, so you can group your sales together. But the item type does make a difference. For instance, service and shipping in this system setup are not inventoried items. So you can't receive them you can't receive any inventory on them because they're not actually a physical product. They're a service, and so you can only actually receive and sell. Or receive and relieve inventory for hardware and software. So item type does have an effect there, but the product line and product group are just for reporting purposes. So you can go into the transactions tab over here, and you will see all the different transactions that have happened to this item. You can see that on this date it was sold. We sold 1 of them, and on this date we received in 5 of them at a specific cost. For that transaction. And you can see all the FIFO layers for that product. You see that we have 4 on this layer for $18.99. It gives you a FIFO layer ID and a date. You can go to a different item, and you'll see there's multiple FIFO layers on this item. So since we've done that, let's go ahead and add a new item. So we're going to add an item. Let's call this, test processor. I don't know. Right, this is just all, let's do test proc. And let's say that it costs us, $65 for that processor. What you'll notice is that as soon as I type in 65, because my standard markup in my system settings is set to 15%, it automatically tells me what the unit price should be based on this markup. Now I can change this markup to, let's say, 25%, and it changes my unit price, or I can change this, the unit price, and it changes my markup. So I always kind of know what my markup is and what my price should be based on the cost. But let's just change this back to our standard 15% markup. This is a hardware piece. And I don't have a section here for processors, so let's just stick it under motherboards. I should add one for that if I wanted to have it in its own product line. And the product group will just say none, and we can just say really cool processor in the product information screen, or text box. Now, one thing over on the right hand side, this assembly I want to talk about. So there are times, like when you're building a custom PC, where the custom PC SKU isn't actually a thing. The custom PC is just made up of a bunch of other SKUs, like the motherboard and the processor and the RAM and the power supply and the box. And so you can make an item in assembly, and it will allow you to create a bill of materials to tie all of those other products that go into making that computer to that specific line item on the order. And we're going to go through that in a little while. But for this product, because it's just a processor, we're just going to choose no, it's not an assembly, hit save item, and then we see that our test proc is here. The next step, the next thing we'll do is go ahead and create a purchase order. If I hit search, you can see all of the past purchase orders and all the different line items on them down here. But we're just going to create a new purchase order, and you'll see that it automatically generates a purchase order number. Then that's just system generated for you. You can't change it. We have to tie a vendor to this PO, and we have Amazon in there. It's not a typical vendor for us, but it just was an easy one to type in for the test. And of course, you can add a new vendor from the screen as well. So we go to Amazon for our vendor. And something else that's unique about this system is that I can search by order number, and I can tie a specific PO line item to an order. So let's say a customer calls in or brings their computer in and has a bad motherboard and it's an older model. We don't have one in stock, right? We can special order one in for that specific order. And so we tie this purchase order line item to that order, so we know that this was ordered for that computer. And that way, when we receive it in, we don't actually accidentally sell it to a different customer or something like that. We know that that item is for that customer on that order that's already been entered. And you would just select the order you want to order it in, the product in for, and it brings it over here in your order number automatically. But for now, we're just going to leave that blank because we're just adding in inventory to resell. We're going to choose an item. Let's order in our new test processor, and $65 is what we set as the default unit cost, but let's say we got this on sale for $58.99, and we're ordering in 10 of them, and we hit add item to PO. And now you see that we have the unit cost of $58.99, the quantity, and the product we received in, or that we ordered, and the vendor, all the information about the PO. You can remove a PO line item by hitting remove PO item if you want to. But there is no save PO button. There's none of that stuff. You just add the items and then it's on the PO. Simple as that. And so now let's say we send the purchase order to our vendor, and the UPS guy brings us the product, right? And so then what we do is once we receive the product in, we open up the box and count everything that's in there and go into our receiving module. And we hit search, and it shows us all the outstanding purchase orders that we have. And you see that once I click on the purchase order, it shows all the line items in that purchase order. Down here, it tells you what we paid for it and the amount we ordered. We can adjust this quantity if we received in less or more than we expected. And this will just show multiple lines if there were multiple items on the purchase order. And once we select our item and we adjust our quantities if need be, we just hit receive item, boop, and done. It's received. And if we go back into our PO and we search for that PO, we'll see that there is now a received date on the PO, and the line item has the received date as well. And now let's go back into inventory, and we'll look up our test processor. And this is all the information about our test processor. It has our unit price and our unit cost. It says that we have 10 available in inventory. We have our transactions. You see that we had a PO receipt on this date at that time. This is the cost that we received in for, the quantity, and it also has FIFO layers. And again, if we were to have multiple receipts on this product, we'd have multiple FIFO layers, just like on this product here, this sample regular item, we have multiple FIFO layers with different costs. So that being said, let's go place an order. So, customers search. We're just going to place an order for myself. Let me go back. From this screen, we can add a new customer as well if we wanted to. Just click on add new customer and filter stuff in. You can select whether it's a business customer or a retail customer, but we're not going to add a new customer. We're just going to open up an existing customer, and you can see that all my order history here and all the computers that I have over here on the right. Now we have the ability to track every computer that comes into the store and all the history on that computer, and you know, you can just click add hardware, and let's say they bring in a PC, right? It could be like maybe a Dell thingy. I don't know, whatever model it would be, right? You just put the model in, put the specs, like 1 gig, 15. Let's do this. 260 gigs of RAM. 3 million terabyte hard drive. Whatever you're going to put in there, right? Save the hardware. It adds a line item to your customer hardware window, and now from here, you can print a label. And this is really cool because you hit print label and it prints to a little label printer. Let's see if I can find one of those PDFs. It prints to a little label printer, and it looks like, once it finally loads up, this PDF's taking a long time to open. And it looks like this. And it just has our company logo, our phone number, and it has a hardware ID. And the hardware ID is really cool because we can look up your specific device by that hardware ID if that sticker is on your computer or your laptop or whatever. And so we can see all the history that's happened to that device. It's proof that you did in fact have it worked on at our location or purchased it from us. So it's really nice to have. Plus it has our contact info, so you can always call us up without having to look us up in the, I would say in the phone book, but those don't really exist anymore on Google. So we close that, and we're back to here. You can, of course, edit the customer hardware by just hitting Open Hardware, and you can edit the information if you want to. Also in here, you'll see the customer's total lifetime sales, so you can see if they're a long-time, good-paying customer or not. It's just a handy little thing. So let's open up a new order. So to do that, you can, well, first, you'll see down here on our order history list that all these orders are closed. We could open one of those orders and just view it, or we can just hit New Order. So we're going to choose New Order, open up a new order, and you'll see that the status by default is open, and we're going to choose our source code that we made, 1234. And that source code would tie back to a specific promotion. So we know what brought the customer into the store, and that helps us to know how to market in the future because we can test and see which marketing efforts were successful. So we're going to tie it to that source code. We're going to hit search and search for a product. Now this displays all products here that we have in the system if there's nothing typed in here. But if I type in the word test and hit search, you'll see it just shows anything with the word test in it. And it doesn't just have to begin with that. It can be any part of the text string can be searched from. So kind of cool. So we're going to search, and we're going to add maybe a sample regular item to the order, and we'll just order one of them. And let's say that we're selling it for, we'll just leave these costs default, I guess. So we're selling it for $17.25. We hit add item, and it adds it up here to our line items. And so now let's say we're going to search for another item for our, let's do a custom PC. So now when I add a custom PC, it is an assembly like I talked about before. It doesn't have a cost associated with it because its cost is going to be the total cost of all the items that you use to build it. And so we're going to add one custom PC at a price of $600 is fine, and add the item. And now you'll see that this text here is blue colored, whereas the sample regular item is black. And whenever it's blue, it means that it is in fact an assembly. So I can click on it and choose View Bill of Materials, and it brings up this Bill of Materials windows. And this is where I tell it what I used to build that computer. So I hit search, and I need a power supply, of course. I'm going to search, I'm going to get a motherboard, and we're going to do our test processor, and that's good enough. And you can edit the quantities if you need to, like if you had 2 sticks of RAM or something like that. But for now, we'll just leave them all as one. We hit done, and now you'll see that our cost is updated, and it's based on whatever we use to build the computer. And I can, let's say I only wanted to mark it up, 25%. It'll automatically set the unit price for me when I type in the markup. Or if I'm going to charge them, $195, it will tell me, the markup I use. So anyway, and then you'd hit update the item if you wanted to change the price. But we're not going to change the price here. We're just going to leave it. So let's hit save order. And we're going to leave this in an open status so I can show you what's going to happen with our time logging. So we're going to hit save order. And you'll see that we now have an open order here with the source code and the dollar amount of the order. And now if we go into our time logging, that order number is right here. It tells you the customer that placed the order and their name. And we can choose a text. So let's say it's me. And from here we can view the customer, view the order. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to hit start. So now we start building the computer. And we're doing all the stuff we're doing, and we're plugging things together. We're taking things out of the boxes and all that stuff. And then we get done. I can make a note. I can say built hardware, still need to install Windows, right? I hit save work, and it puts the time log in here for me with the date and time and all that stuff with my note. And let's say that Chris, the other guy, he comes along and he sees the computer's up on the bench and wonders, well, what the heck needs to be done with it? It's just sitting there, right? He can look at the notes and he can hit start work, and then he's working on it, he's working on it, he's working on it, and he says, installed Windows, needs updates. So then I hit save work, and now he has a note in the work log. And let's say that he leaves for lunch or something, and I come back and I say, oh, well, did anybody work on the computer? Has the status changed? Do I still need to install Windows? What's going on? And I can see, oh yeah, Chris installed Windows, still needs updates. So then I can start the work, you know, and when I'm done, I hit stop and I write down what I did, ran updates, PC is ready, done, save work. And now I'm done. And now I can close this out. The customer comes into the store and they say, okay, I'm ready to get my PC, because, you know, maybe it takes a day or two to build a PC for a customer. So they come in, they're ready to pick up their PC. We open their order. We can see all of the items on the order. And we can add a note maybe, if we wanted to add a note to the order, like customer is super cool. Save note, and you'll see it puts a date and everything on there, so you can add notes to the order. And we're going to put this in a closed status, because that means that they have paid. And we hit save order, and it pops up and asks if we want to print a receipt, and we will choose yes. And we're just going to print it to a PDF printer so you can view it on the screen. We'll just call it number 4, and it'll print that receipt someday. And I'm going to open up the PDF so you can see it. And here's our sales receipt, and it has it has, you know, our logo, obviously, the sales receipt, the order number, the date, customer information, tells you the quantity you ordered, the price, all this stuff's on here, and the order total. So kind of nifty. And that just prints on a regular LaserJet printer. And now you'll see that our order status is closed. So now let's close this, and let's go over to our item maintenance, and we'll hit search, and we'll go to our test processor. And if you look in here, you'll see there was a transaction of -1 on the date that we sold it, and the reason is for sales. So it tracks every transaction that happens to that product. We'll also see that our FIFO layer has been reduced to 9. It was 10, and that's that. So the last thing I want to show you is this work log. And this is kind of handy for our business customers. We can search, again, like all the other searches, you just type there and it kind of does the best, makes the best effort at figuring out which field you're trying to search for. You hit search, and let's say we pick DC Tech as a customer. Right now we have no open tickets for DC Tech. And these would be like support tickets, you know. A business customer calls in and says, I have a broken printer, can you come out and fix it, right? We do have some closed tickets. I can filter by closed or on hold. We don't have any tickets that were ever on hold or that are on hold. So let's add a new ticket. So let's create a new ticket. Let's say David entered it, and let's see, PC running slow in the sales area, and the note is PC is super old, probs don't work well. I don't know. And you can add a hardware. So, you know, our business customers, every piece of hardware they have would be logged into the system, and so we can tie it back, we can tie every ticket back to a specific piece of hardware, so we have the history on it. So let's say it's the Dell thingy that's running super slow, and it only has 260 gigs of RAM, so it makes sense why it would be running slow, right? We hit create ticket, and now we have our ticket. And we can open that up and we can edit it again. Let's say we're going to add a note. We can say maybe Chris went out to look at it and he said, yeah, has viruses, Windows needs to be reinstalled, submit. And now we have this ticket history. And let's say that I go out, you know, I go out to, you know, we bring the computer back here, and then, you know, I work on it, and we can say, done. Yay! Submit, and now the work's done, and it gives us the time and the date that it was completed, hit close, and then from here, we would be able to just close our ticket. So it wasn't an open status, we just changed it to closed, hit close, and now it no longer shows up in our open tickets, but it does show up in our closed tickets. You'll see PC running slow in sales area. So that's it. That's kind of the whole shebang that I wanted to go through right now. Yeah.